It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before morning. Politicians love to stand at podiums and preach about economic liberty. They promise you stability, they talk about endless growth, and they sell you the dream of opportunity. But if you peel back the layers of history, a much darker reality emerges. For centuries, governments have utilized invisible financial mechanisms to keep the average citizen poor while concentrating immense power and wealth for themselves. The truly shocking part isn't that this is happening. It's that these tricks are not new. They have been recycled for hundreds of years. The packaging changes, the names get updated, but the objective remains identical: to transfer wealth upward and keep the majority dependent on the system. Let's begin with the oldest deception in the book: inflation. When a regime spends more than it can collect in taxes, it faces two choices. It can be honest and tax citizens openly, which is politically dangerous and often leads to riots. Or it can quietly destroy the currency. Ancient Rome perfected this art. In the 3rd century, emperors needing cash for military campaigns started reducing the silver content of the denarius. A coin that was once nearly pure silver eventually became a piece of copper with a thin, deceptive silver wash on top. The empire pretended the value was the same, but everyone holding those coins paid the price. Prices skyrocketed, savings evaporated. It was a silent tax on the population. A trick that is still used today. Only now we use central banks instead of imperial mints. The Middle Ages introduced a variation of this game: the forced loan. Monarchs in England, France, and Spain would routinely pressure wealthy merchants to lend money to the crown. Refusal meant fines, prison, or confiscation. The trick here was coercion disguised as patriotism. By the 17th century, the financial system itself became the trick. When the Bank of England was founded in 1694, it wasn't an act of charity. It was created because the government needed massive amounts of cash to fight a war with France. Wealthy investors bought government bonds, and in return, the Crown guaranteed them a permanent stream of interest payments funded by public taxes. It sounds like a business deal, but ask yourself, who actually paid those taxes? The common people through duties on daily goods like salt, beer, and cloth. The wealthy lent money to the state and earned secure interest. The poor paid taxes to fund that interest. It was a wealth transfer mechanism dressed up as national finance. Fast forward to the modern era, and these tricks are everywhere. Look at deficit spending. Governments rack up trillions in debt, telling the public it is for infrastructure. But when the bill comes due, they don't cut spending at the top. They raise taxes on you, or they inflate the currency. And then there are the bailouts. During the 2008 financial crash, banks made reckless bets that nearly destroyed the global economy. Who paid the bill? You did. The taxpayers. Who profited afterward? The very same banks which emerged bigger than before. The trick was simple: privatize the gains, socialize the losses. The public was told it was necessary to save the system, but in reality it just saved the players at the top. Even the way governments handle your retirement is a sleight of hand. Millions pay into government pension systems believing money is saved. It isn't. Governments spend that money immediately and leave an IOU in the vault. They rely on future unborn taxpayers. It is essentially a generational Ponzi scheme, legally protected by the state. In recent decades, the tricks have become even more sophisticated. Consider quantitative easing. Central banks created trillions of dollars out of thin air to buy government bonds. They said this was to prevent collapse, and it worked for the asset holders. Stock markets soared. But for the average family, the result was a cost of living crisis. The money creation saved the rich, but the inflation it caused is a tax on everyone else. When prices rise faster than wages, the government is effectively stealing your purchasing power. Finally, they weaponize complexity itself. Tax codes are thousands of pages long. Financial instruments are impossible to understand. This isn't an accident. Complexity acts as camouflage. If you cannot track how the money flows, you cannot resist the theft. Why does this matter right now? Because the machine is accelerating. Inflation is eating your savings. Debt is piling up. Bailouts are now the standard response. The system is designed to keep you on a treadmill, working harder for money that buys less, while the financial elite consolidate their position. But to truly understand why this is happening now, we must look at the final nail in the coffin, the year 1971. Before this date, money was tied to gold. There was a physical limit to how much governments could print. But when the gold standard was abandoned, the lesson from history is not just that these tricks exist, but that they always return. Rome debased its coins, we print digital currency. Different ages, same mechanism. Most people never escape this cycle because they don't realize they are in a game. So, look beyond the headlines, build real wealth outside of their traps, and never assume the system is working for you just because it says it is. History doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. If this video gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers, and I'll show you where to look.